Hello everybody, this is Allshouse Gaming and welcome back to another episode of Let's Play Disco Elysium. In the previous episode, we attempted a meeting with the union leadership, Everett Clare, and got exceedingly little out of it. As a matter of fact, he wants us to do some dirty work for him so that he will talk about the murder. But I am no one's dirty cop. But we did cash in the check he gave us for 25 real. And, went to go finally purchase a map for this place. And now we're talking to some lady about a curse.
It's the curse of financial distress, of ruin and bankruptcy.
She peers at the curtains again.
Didn't that curtain just move?
Annette mentioned that the previous tenants have experienced some financial troubles.
It's not just that, officer. We're dealing with something supernatural here. It's the cacodemons feeding off bad business practices and disappointing income statements. There's something wrong with this building, I can tell you. Ever since I arrived, I've sensed an eerie lingering presence, as if I was unwanted here.
Would you like me to take the case? I could investigate, see if the curse is real. Or have you sought help from anyone?
Yes, I've contacted numerous parapsychologists, and even a pair of Simonese mediators. They provided me with the wards.
She nods at the strange cage-like trinket on the curtains.
The wards help to keep the doom at bay and protect us against the darkness that lies further in the building. Even though now I fear, it's not enough.
Is your pendant part of the wards as well?
Oh, this? No, it's a special Himian amulet, blessed by desert pygmy shamans, with a spell of compulsion. It's to compel people to buy books. There are numerous spells cast throughout the store. I had the books anointed with a different inducement spell, for example. It's guaranteed to boost sales 15%.
Desert pygmy shamans. That sounds like a rather questionable way to describe a group of people.
Would you like me to take the case? I could investigate, see if the curse is real.
Most certainly not. I don't want anyone who's not familiar with the psychic arts to get involved in this mess. Stay away. Leave the spirits be, so they can return to their slumber.
Psychic arts? Sounds right down our alley.
Convince her to let you investigate the doomed commercial area.
Slither up to her, you silver-tongued fiend. Show her what world-class perfidy looks like.
Ma'am, I came here to help. I've handled paranatural situations before.
Are you sure? Don't think I haven't seen charlatans before.
I have returned from the void, a paradetective from a long line of paradetectives.
You're no paradetective. You look nothing like one. And you're clearly a drinker. Pardon me for being so blunt, but...
You look like one. The lieutenant keeps his usual stony calm. He silently picks out his notebook.
You see, it's necessary to drink the spirits in order to contact the void.
How do you know all this?
Here we go.
I am the Void Revenant. I have the powers to de-bad all the bad energies. Now, your words brought me here in the first place. The Simonese blood also runs through me.
You're part Simonese. Oh, it means our meeting couldn't have been mere chance. The hand of fate guides us. But I am not the only one at risk. I have to think of my daughter. You are certain you can help us? Keep us safe? I can't allow any collateral damage to hit us.
No problem whatsoever. Your family is safe. The phantoms are no match for me.
If you promise, good officer, then you might be our last hope. Do you swear it?
On my honor.
Thank you, sir. There's one more thing I haven't told you about yet. The entity.
Do not act surprised. You know of these things, sire.
Of course, the entity. For I have sensed its presence.
You have? The entity takes the form of a woman, a witch probably. I've suspected that she must be connected to the curse ever since I first saw her. Did you know that she lives inside the chimney?
Chimney. The passage between heaven and hell, of course.
Yes. That chimney is part of the building's central furnace, and it's enormous. She has barricaded herself behind some metal security curtains. God knows what she's doing there. Some unnatural magic, I assume. You should go find the entity and ask what happened to all the companies in the building. What is the source of this curse? Here's the key to the warded door behind the curtains. Take it. Oh, and please do return to me after you've looked round. I'm quite anxious to know what she has to say about the curse. What you discover in there.
Unbelievable darkness and ruin. What you discover? Probably just some office space. Don't be scared.
Alright, but first things first, I need to go find a certain someone to talk to. Now that I know which way to go to get there, I want to head there immediately. Rest assured, we'll be returning to the cursed financial district. But this is important.
A striking woman leans against the cabin top of her sailing boat, smiling as you approach. Her green raincoat glistens with droplets. A silk scarf is tied around her throat.
Good afternoon, officers. I'm Joyce.
She extends her hand in greeting.
Joyce L. Messier. I represent the board of Wild Pines, the owners of the harbor. You gentlemen must be from the RCM.
She steps closer and holds out her hand over the railing. Oh, what gave us away?
Nothing, honestly. I've said it to every drunk in town, and you're the first one who's responded.
Relax. She meant it in jest.
Shake her
I'm
hand.
glad to see you here.
Her grip is tight and cold.
Like steel. There is strength there. If she wanted, she could sink her nails deep into your skin.
I was dispatched to handle a strike, not a lynching. Anything I can do to assist the RCM in this matter, I will. Gladly.
That is good to hear, madame. My colleague will take the lead on this interview. I should let you know that he is recovering from an unusual medical episode. Very unusual. But I can assure you of his ultimate competency.
It happens quicker than a shooting star. But did the lieutenant just wink at you?
How interesting. I wish you a swift recovery. In the meanwhile, you have my full cooperation, and the full cooperation of the Wild Pines group.
You know something about these tattoos?
That's the man who was killed.
She almost
I'm
takes a
afraid
photo.
this is a discussion for once we've cleared the lynching question.
Fine. Why? How is you looking at the photo tied to the lynching?
Better not tie the forestay to the backstay on this. I hope there is something else I can help you with.
Very well. Tell me about Wild Pines. What do you do?
What we do? I'm afraid I don't speak for Wild Pines as a whole. It's a giant undertaking.
There was a touch of discomfort there. She wants to merely represent.
So what do they do?
The Pines' core competency is logistics. Container shipping, freight, that sort of thing. See those airships there, blinking? Those are the shipping side of things. And that is the terminal. Another subdivision deals with energy, oil and gas exploration, offshore platforms.
The Wild Pines Group is one of the original Revacholian Indo-tribes. Companies awarded royal monopolies by the king, the suzerain himself, centuries ago. The king is long gone, but several of the Indo-tribes remain.
Who are the other Indo tribes?
Son Baptiste, Elysium, an unknown entity known as Brightest Star.
You're in good company, it seems.
Why, thank you.
How much money does Wild Pines have?
I'm not at liberty to discuss the company balance sheet, but I can tell you that last year, the company booked more than 20 billion real in revenue.
Money I owe is so much less than that.
Yes, past a certain point, numbers begin to seem imaginary, but they are quite real for the 72,000 employees who depend on Wild Pines for their paychecks. A conglomerate the size of Wild Pines is like a shark. If it stops moving and growing, it will die. Then what becomes of those 72,000 families? It is a tremendous responsibility.
Where does Wild Pines get all these billions?
They started as an exploration and cargo fleet conducting trade between the Samaran and Insulindian Isolas 250 years ago, when Pine ships explored the South Seminese and charted Lormantang on behalf of the suzerain. Centuries of care, deliberation, and madness have gone into this endeavor. Vessels pass through the Great Unrest to re-emerge with apricots in tow. The logic of the system is totalizing. It's taken everything from its employees to build it.
Probably helps to start out with a royal monopoly.
You know more than you let on. Certainly it helped, but most of the original Indo tribes have failed, or been absorbed. To survive, Wild Pines had to grow and adapt. No suzerain did that.
What does such a huge system want with a place like this?
You mean aside from being the terminal's legal owners? Who are responsible for moving 8% of the world's cargo?
8% of all cargo in the world? That's quite the endeavor.
There are no minor cogs in the system. Each terminal must be accounted for, lest the entire system break. Every hiccup in such a system means thousands lose their jobs, the world over. I'm here to assure that doesn't happen.
And that one that I picked, 8% of all the cargo. That gets us this thought. The 15th Indo tribe. Wild Pine, Feld, Capri, Tricentennial, yada yada. Names of Revacholian Indo tribes spring into your head. Set loose at the mention of Wild Pines. Royal monopolies, octopuses, and swordfish. Most of them gone now. YBP, yada yada, blah blah blah. But isn't one missing? Wait, no, there were only 14. And why do you feel like there was a 15th Indo tribe? Internalize this thought. Once this thought is internalized, which unfortunately we won't have in time to, be able to pay off our problems, we will be able to gain 10 cents for every green thought bubble. That might not seem like much, but as you saw from us walking around, there are a lot of thought bubbles, or green thought bubbles, so it will add up. What can you tell me about this strike?
Everything. Right up to, but not including, trade secrets.
Wait, what if I want to hear about trade secrets?
First, you'd have to repeal the Emergencies Act of Trade in Aliments. That gives me the right to silence. It's quite the octopus.
I wouldn't want to disturb an octopus. Better let it be.
I'm glad you see it that way. To repeal the act would mean repealing the coalition government. The one that leases you the right to police West Revachol.
You'd be shooting yourself in the foot, in other words.
Leave it alone.
But I am derailing us. You wanted to know about the strike.
What is your role in this precisely?
I believe the official title is Senior Labor Negotiator. In practice, I'm a grocery clerk. I relay the union's demands to Wild Pines and return with Wild Pines' counteroffer.
And how are the talks going?
They're not. That's the problem. The union stopped all negotiations a week ago, after that awful lynching took place.
Wait, she just admitted that the lynching and the strike are connected.
Now they won't even let me into the harbor. There's a 2-meter-20 racist behemoth blocking the gates.
So the strike is connected to the lynching.
Yes, I believe there is a connection. But that's a subject for later.
How will the talks go? Tell me more about this behemoth.
What can I say? The union employs a giant covered in tattoos. A racist giant. I guess that's part of their big tent organization now.
How are the talks going before the lynching?
Let's say I was not making the kind of progress I'd hoped for when I first arrived.
And when did you first arrive?
I arrived 3 weeks ago. Yes, in the middle of February. The bay was still partially frozen then. I prefer to do these things on site, like the RCM.
But the strike began in December.
He looks at his notes.
I wasn't the original negotiator here. I took over after Mr. Gaumont hit a wall with Mr. Clare, the union boss. Mr. Clare refused to speak with Gaumont despite concessions he'd granted the union in prior negotiations.
This isn't the first time the union has gone on strike.
Heavens no. There have been 2 prior strikes. Both times the union won significant concessions, including overtime pay and a medical plan. This time their demands are more, I guess you could say, aggressive.
Ludicrous even. It's meant.
What happened to this Gaumont?
Mr. Clare told him to... How did he put it?
Pauses to compose herself.
Fuck off, midget. Gaumont is short of stature, you see.
Not cool.
Keep in mind, this is a negotiator Mr. Clare has worked with before, and who was more than fair with him and the Union.
What are their demands?
There are leaflets everywhere, and banners. What did they say again? Oh yes, every worker, a member of the board.
Most of the workers probably don't know what that means.
Seems like they have no idea about business. Or, forget it, I wanted to ask something else about the
She
strike.
nods.
Scabs at the gate. Did you put them there?
The scabs? You mean the huddled masses of Jamrock, come to plead for work where the Union refuses to?
Don't let her answer it herself.
Let's call them strike breakers. You put them there, right?
If these strike breakers were organized by Wild Pines or its affiliates, then it would be a company secret. I could not share it with you. Not yet, at least.
It's implied. She's open to discussing this matter with you at a later occasion.
Alright, what do you think of Everard?
Everard Clare is a man of the utmost integrity. If you can say one thing about him, it's that he always puts the interests of the workers first.
Really?
Of course not. Everard is fantastically corrupt. I imagine he has a thick, viscous goo where you and I have blood.
If you were to prick it with something sharp, you could see it oozing out. A knife, maybe? No, a rapier.
You sound like you're about to take a rapier to him.
Oh heavens, no. We get along just fine. Yet, now that you mention it, I can't stop imagining that black treacle just dribbling down his double chin.
He stops and smiles. Yeah, that's Everard, all right.
He is the most corrupt individual I have ever seen, and I deal with men like him for a living. If there is anyone more venal, more irredeemably nepotistic, then it's his twin brother, Edgar.
Wait, there are two of him?
Yes, Edgar looks exactly like his brother, except for that lazy eye. He also talks exactly like Everard does, and when one's term as foreman is up, the other takes over. It's how they circumvent the term limits, you see, with a funny little switcheroo. While in office, they've embezzled God knows how much of their workers' dues.
What about the Union itself, outside the Brothers Clare?
The Debardeurs Union was once a perfectly normal institution. 20 years ago, anyway. It must not have been easy to establish under the Emergency Act, but they did it. I can respect that. Organized labor at its best, as they say. Then something happened in the local chapter elections. The Brothers Clare came and transformed it into a... how do you say?
She hesitates, looking for the right expression.
A mob. The Debardeurs are a crime syndicate. Sad as it may be, we are forced to cooperate with them.
Refreshingly honest, officer. The company has tried appeasing in the past, but I'm afraid our concessions have only emboldened Everard and his brother.
She turns to you.
And your opinion, detective? If I may ask. I'm a curious and talkative person, you see. Would you say the Debardeurs Union is...
I prefer not to have an opinion on these things.
Of course, officer.
One more thing. You said something happened in the elections?
I'm glad you asked. There was a woman, the previous forewoman of the Union. She disappeared.
Disappeared?
Yes. On the last day of the local chapter elections, her daughter phoned in and said she wasn't running anymore. Or coming to work. Ever. End of story.
This forewoman, her name?
This forewoman. Her name?
Sadly, the company records do not even give a name. She's just forewoman in private correspondence, Polly. I don't even know if it's a sir or given name, and I don't have access to the Union's files.
Eerie.
Downright haunting, if you ask me. The Wild Pines suspected foul play, but what could they do? It was a Union matter. The point of the presentation is, these kinds of things happen around the Clares. Watch out when you're dealing with him.
Good thing we didn't accept that job.
Thank you for your concern, ma'am. We'll be just fine.
That's all I needed here. Let's change the topic.
Of course. How else can I help?
By the way, I've talked to Everett Clare.
You have? And how did you like Mr. Clare?
I didn't.
Oh, come on now. He has his uses. How else would he have stayed in power all these years? Or wait, actually,
She answers her own question.
corruption. That's how he's done it. Fantastic, Worm-like corruption, reaching into the bowels of the earth.
She looks at the ground and
The
nods.
position of my unusual colleague does not reflect official policy. I hope you understand. The RCM does not pick sides.
Of course. And I don't expect you to share anything he told you with me. I'm not a corrupt Worm myself. However, if you felt like discussing something, how could I stop you? Are we not human? Are we not curious to hear another person's take? It's only natural. We would only be gossiping.
Intellectually speaking, it would be quite interesting to hear what she has to say about these things.
I'd rather not talk. I'd rather talk about something else for now, if you don't mind.
Of course, Detective. Should something come up later, down the road, don't be afraid to drop by for a chat. Until then, is there anything I can help you with?
What can you tell me about this lynching?
Quite a few things, I'm afraid.
All silent for a moment, contemplating something.
The information I'm to share with you includes sensitive trade secrets. For the sake of my employer, I have to ask for your names and badge numbers.
Of course, ma'am. We should have introduced ourselves. I am Lieutenant Kitsuragi from Precinct 57, and this is my colleague from Precinct 41, Detective Dubois. I'm afraid Harry doesn't have his badge at the moment. I hope mine will suffice.
Oh, and what happened to yours, Detective?
Remember when my partner told you I'd recently suffered from an unusual medical episode? My lost badge is related to it.
I see. So, are you saying you lost your badge during the course of this episode?
It's possible, after a night of heavy drinking, I lost all memory of my life in the world.
Oh dear. Some kind of encephalopathic amnesia. I don't even know how to respond. I do believe you, naive as that may sound. I simply can't imagine what you gain by faking such a condition.
As I said, ma'am, his technique may be very unconventional, but he is an officer of the RCM.
Of course, I sympathize. But I'm afraid I simply can't share anything more until I've seen that badge.
She's a professional negotiator. She should be open to some sort of mutually beneficial arrangement.
And I'll find it somehow. Let's talk about something else until I do.
Of course. But before we do, officers, let me be perfectly clear. The situation is extremely volatile. The sooner we can speak about this lynching business, the better for all of us.
Now, here's the problem. We're not going to be able to acquire it for a while. I wonder. You seem rich. Can I have some money?
Is what you want to say, but it isn't that easy.
What?
Is
Why
it?
not?
Look at that lady. Take a gander. Squint your eyes, bub.
What nice fabrics.
Why, yes. Tucked away under that sturdy green raincoat, almost rustic in its simplicity, a silk shirt and matching scarf around her gentle throat, while dull orange pearls hang from her earlobes, red from the cold. Her light green eyes scan you, full of knowledge and worry. Wealth and all its possibilities. These are the kind eyes of the rich man that seem to say everything is possible, within reason.
Yeah, so?
Now look at you, you misery-clad simian, barely able to tie your own laces. Your armpits are lakes. A scythe of booze precedes you. Your hair sticks to your forehead, and your underwear feels uncomfortable. You're poor, poor as balls. You can't ask this person for money. You're too.
I'm not ashamed.
Oh, but you are. Too ashamed to ask this person for money. Too scared to belittle yourself in her eyes. Those half-precious stones of Erdinil.
As I was saying, if there's any way I may be of assistance, please don't hesitate to ask.
Well, we could get the money we need to take care of our debt from her, but unfortunately, our volition's a little too low for that. I could put a point into it. Let's see. This is a white check. Yeah, why not? 42%.
I am sorry. It just doesn't come out of your mouth. Surprisingly eloquent, really. The last one, not the first three. Those are ape speak.
I am the scum of the earth.
My. Why'd you say that?
Gunk.
That's garbage. You're a police officer.
I'm the stuff people have under their fingernails. Let's talk about something else, please.
Of course.
Yeesh.
Of course, detective.
Well, it was worth a try. At the very least, putting that point in volition has raised my morale a bit, so I'm not as worried. And like I said, I'm going to hold off on going after all of these green bubbles until we've got the 15th Indo tribe. 'Cause this is a lot of money we could be pulling in. Sort of. Still have no idea. There is a pawn shop. That we could go to sell off some stuff. I just can't remember where it is. You know what? Let me check. Okay, apparently it's just down south of the... hotel. Oh, yeah. I think here it is right here. Is it? Roy's Pawn Shop. Fast cash for fast timers.
It's not often that I see officers from the RCM in my pawn shop.
Man at the counter turns to you slowly.
What can I do for you?
His courtesy is not insincere, but he prefers being alone with his projector, just watching the movement of light across the walls of the shop.
Sorry, I feel like I'm interrupting you.
Oh no, not at all. I guess I haven't had many customers lately. RCM or otherwise.
Who are your customers usually?
All kinds of people come through here. Locals, travelers, people looking for a deal, people looking for a keepsake. People who are terminally bored. As you can see, I have a wide selection of goods for everyone to choose from.
Quite the collection indeed.
It keeps me entertained.
His attention is drawn once more to the play of light on and shadows on the walls behind you.
He's well composed, but underneath it you sense psychedelic processes bubbling. Some kind of drug, maybe.
I don't care. There's something I'd like to sell.
Let me have a look.
I'll check my pockets.
Anything else you're thinking of selling?
The cassette tape, Lieutenant's handkerchief. No, I'm not selling that. Let's see, postcard. Yep, pawn that. Pawn that. I'm not pawning that. I like my kind green 8 pen. Don't have anything else to sell.
Another time, perhaps.
I have other business to take care of now. What's this?
You see rows of toy soldiers guarding the rest of the trinkets displayed on the table. Some on horseback, others in rags, others yet in bright blue uniforms. All are stern and unyielding in their duty. Try to find something pretty and cool here, then use it to win her back.
Dig up a truly cool figurine in the box under the table.
Why? What's this? A headless man riding a horse? A headless man wearing futuristic tracksuit trousers that say Fallon?
What is this?
Oh, that's the Headless Phone Rider.
Who?
The Headless Phone Rider. It's an urban legend. About a man who rides the streets of Revachol sporting a fawn tracksuit. As you see, he's missing his head.
Points at the decapitated figurine.
50 cents. Bargain price. I'll throw in the tiny cap too. I think he's looking for it, or something. That part of the story has many interpretations.
Screw it, why not?
Did I mention that this figurine is supposed to be lucky? Always carry it with you.
The head is not included. Why not? Apparently there's some fingerless gloves you can get here that I discovered while I was looking into this. Oh, I can just take these. Electrochemistry, huh? Didn't really need that. Alright, well, we've taken care of some of the interviews. Let's go and talk. Or take care of investigating the corpse.
You see a set of tire tracks in the brown slush that covers the plaza. The tire tracks were left here by an unknown event that took place some days ago. It's a message, written in the language of burnt rubber. Some of that rubber stuck to the tiles right in front of the whirling in rags. This is point A. The driver started there, and then accelerated straight into the fence, left a hole big enough for the Franco-Nigerian cavalry, according to the cafeteria manager.
What happened next?
The driver proceeded to back out of the yard, barely stopping before hitting the adjacent building, before heading south. Must have been in a hurry.
Car drove through the fence.
You are correct. This is a rather motor carriage-friendly city.
Somehow that makes you feel scared. You don't know why.
Is connected to the case?
I'm not sure. There are plenty of traffic accidents waiting to happen in Martinez. With the jam right here on the roundabout, I would keep them separate.
You could follow the track south. There seems to be a canal there. See where they went, if you find the time.
Oh well, I'd say enough time has passed for the corpse. Let's take care of this.
The rotting man lies on his side with his eyes looking straight through you. The belt is still around his neck. His body is supine and open to intrusion by autopsy. The lieutenant adjusts his glasses and takes a deep breath.
Tell me something, dead man.
Shoot, Looney Rooney.
Okay.
Come back later, Corporal. Amuse yourself with my frank manners and my memento mori features. If possible, also, see me in your dreams.
Try to remove the dead man's boots.
I thought we decided to leave it to processing. Let's not turn this into some kind of circus.
Damn it. This is turning into some sort of mega puzzle. Okay, so you can sneak out of your room maybe, after he's gone to sleep.
First, what exactly is a field autopsy?
Come on, officer. You know what a field autopsy is. You've done 100 of them.
What you do know is, at 18.9 kilometers, the dormant shield volcano, Corpus Mundi, is the world's highest summit. And the failure of the 38 single, Epui Descent, to crack the top 20 was the death knell of disco. But what a field autopsy is, you have no idea.
Let's get in there.
There truly is a time for everything, even for yellow gardening gloves. However, they are lacking hygienically. I suggest you get in there in limited capacity.
Alright.
I'll ask you when I need you to. For the most part, maybe I should handle the contact and you take notes?
We'll just fill this in, right? Show him the red field autopsy form in your ledger.
That's right.
Alright, open your ledger at the field autopsy form.
The dead man stares in silence as you crack open the ledger. The bright red paper is covered in boxes and lists, describing the condition of his skin and organs in 3 parts. Above those, an 11-field info form needs filling out first. It begins with,
Begin. 1 assistant.
It's you.
Right? Harry Dubois.
the corpse is indifferent to your scribblings, just lies there. The next box says,
2. Coroner's case number.
KK57-0803.0815.
KK equals Kim Kitsuragi. 57 equals Precinct 57, followed by his date, 0803, and time of arrival, 0815, on the scene. He's indexed the case after himself, not you. That's because he doesn't want to bring up the messy question of your initials.
Write it down.
Next,
Name.
NA. Next,
Date of birth.
NA.
Age.
Roughly 50.
Try 40. The damage is so extensive, it's better to err on the young side.
Gonna write about 42.
He nods.
Rice.
Mondial.
Fair to olive-skinned, from the Isola of Mwindi. This is as vague as it gets. You might as well say whitish. The pudgy mess of curdled meat looks neither mondial nor anything other.
Sex.
Fucky, fucky!
Little monster exclaims energetically.
Male.
Pigs can have sex!
Right? Male.
Nor does he look male, with his pregnant belly and indistinguishable face.
Date of death.
We're still going with March 4th. 51.
Right? 040351.
What else? 9. Body identified by is non-applicable. 10. Case number is the same as the coroner's case.
KK 57 0503 0815 listens motionless, with the cargo belt still around his neck. Only 1 box remains.
Evidence of treatment.
None. At least not after the initial examination.
What exactly is treatment anyway?
Interfering with the body's position or wounds post-mortem.
I'm not so sure. Didn't the footprints look like he was carried over?
They'd have to have incapacitated and carried him over. This man was more than a match for untrained dog walkers.
He places his hand on the dead man's chest as if in preparation.
Your central nervous system recognizes this gesture. It's the stations of the breath. Ecclesiastic, religious in nature, a holdout from pre-DeLorean burial rites. It takes him 2 seconds to perform. Then, somewhere in Jamrock North, a small wood shed behind Rosencrantz Row, Lieutenant Nick Feuerbat puts his hand to the chest of a small corpse, no larger than a monkey. It's raining outside, light drizzle. There is darkness in the shed. Elsewhere yet, an obese female sits in a wicker chair, her silhouette bull-like against the window. Outside, Grand Coudon. The day is turning dim for Sergeant Mac Dawson. Hand extended, he approaches, to make sure she is dead more than anything else. And so, all across Jamrock, Coal City, GRIH, 42 deceased persons found today, 42 stations of breath.
We should start the post-mortem.
Turn the page.
The corpse cannot feel Kim's hand on his chest. It no longer meaningfully interacts with its surroundings. A thicket of boxes and lists on red copier paper tries to answer why.
External examination. Summary.
Clothes. The deceased wears armored boots and white briefs. The make of the briefs is Babrodine, I think. Let's see.
Turns the body onto its side to check the underwear label.
See, it's happening.
Babrodine, yes. Inexpensive. Size M. Color white.
The disappointment is palpable. The red-haired thing was expecting something more lurid.
Write it down.
The rest of the clothes have been removed post-mortem by scavengers in order to get to the victim's ceramic armor. Officers are in search of the missing pieces. Removal of the boots is left for processing.
It would be clever of you to omit the boots altogether, sire. If you are to keep them for yourself, as you ought to, you have deserved them more than anyone else.
Omit the boots.
The boot has a serial number. It's E50.100.100. The lines between the plates are in the shape of the alpha numerical. The number is purposefully concealed by the design.
Write it down.
Tattoos.
He stands up, feet planted on either side of the body.
The upper torso is covered in a single, continuous tattoo, resembling a map of the night sky. It reaches from the right shoulder to the heart. The ink is blue and white. The assistant has a color photograph of the markings, to be added to the case files as document A1. The photo is taken on the scene, using a Trigat Mini. The deceased has a belt for airlifting cargo around his neck, tied with a hangman's knot. Color, yellow. Length, 3 meters. There is a buckle on the other end.
Write it down.
Well-nourished, athletically built, measuring 1.8 meters. Generally consistent with age 42. Preservation is good. Ambient temperature, below freezing. Body hair is light brown. Distribution is consistent with age. The deceased had male pattern baldness. Hair is combed back, short.
Touch the corpse's hair before moving on.
The hair under your latex fingers feels cold to touch, wet.
Stroke his hair. Gently.
The stench is suffocating. Strands of dark brown hair start sticking to the latex of the glove, like thread off a rag doll's head. There must be brilliantine in there. He's combed his hair back with oil.
Keep petting him.
More hair sticks to the glove. Hair off the rain-soaked head of a dead man. There are bumps and dips on the skull below. An alien landscape. For a fraction of a second you feel something. An irregularity. But then it's gone. Too minute to register in your mind.
What was that? A bump?
What was what? Brilliantine. There's brilliantine in his hair.
Write it down. Short, light brown, male pattern baldness.
Lividity is consistent with hanging. The head is congested. Contusions are present on the head, chest, and thighs. Consistent with stones thrown post-mortem. Low velocity.
Fucking low velocity? You think Kuno doesn't know what you're talking about? Velocity was fucking max. Talking shit about Kuno's velocity.
In addition, there are bite marks on the face, scalp, and chest. Consistent with predation.
Write down.
Ligature mark.
The lieutenant produces a small folding knife with the other hand, pulling on the belt. He starts cutting into the polyester. The stench is horrid. After a while, it's obvious the material cannot be cut.
The steel wiring. There's too much of it. We need to remove the belt so we can get to the ligature mark.
You got just the right tool for that. The chain cutters.
Oh yeah, I'm prepared. Pet the chain cutters.
The hanged man lets out a joyous little bubble of rot from his nose.
Good thing we got these.
Always good to think ahead. Now,
He points to the rope squeezing the dead man's neck.
we need to cut the belt to see the ligature mark below. Carefully, with as much precision as you can.
See, my pig is gonna fuck his head off.
No, he ain't. Your pig's a boring fuck.
Ooh. And it's a red check. What is it? Physical instrument? I'm just gonna put this point here. And hope it does enough. Look for a good spot to cut.
The belt is equally tight around the whole circumference of his neck, swelling over the edges like white bread rising from the yeast. The knot is the weak spot. The chain cutters fit in there. Steady now, like a flower arranger. 2 cuts and it should come loose.
Alright, 83%.
You jam the cutters right under the knot. That seems like a smart idea. Yeah, somewhere there. Already they're buried deep in the man's flesh.
Fuck.
Then you rotate them to get a better hold. Then
Fuck. Ugh.
the lieutenant looks by, somewhat worried as you summon power words to your aid.
Rotate some more.
A really, really bad smell is coming from there now, and some kind of cracking sound.
Ugh. Got some more.
Yeah, fuck him! Fuck that faggoty! Corpse fucking time!
Told you my pig was hardcore.
I should have a go first. I think I have a strategy.
Let him work.
He sinks the cutters into the knot, preparing to perform the cuts, with his elbow to his knee for precision. Snap. The knot is slashed. Another cut and the belt falls apart like a flower bouquet, revealing the dead man's neck and the dark red ligature mark around it.
Oh boy. Run out of time, but gotta get through this. Oh, I can save.
Here.
He hands you the chain cutter's back and kneels closer to the body, running his fingers along the dark red groove until he comes to a gap.
The rope rises to a point, leaving a gap in the ligature mark. The suspension point is in the back of the neck, on the nape. Hemorrhaging is observed on the skin, above and below the ligature mark. The mark is well pronounced, consistent with a drop from 1 or 1.5 meters. Chest is intact, normal contour. Abdomen is protuberant, pelvis intact. Genitalia.
Pulls down the man's underpants.
No! Let's get up and see!
I fucking knew it!
Genitalia is male and unremarkable. No evidence of injury.
Write it down and move on.
Back is symmetrical and intact. Upper and lower extremities are intact, but asymmetrical. There are combat injuries on the right hand, thigh, and hip. In addition, I see smaller, residual scars, too numerous to count, covering about 30% of his skin.
From wounds sustained over 2, maybe more decades, dispersal and accumulation indicates long and active combat duty.
The scarring is extensive, way more than a law official's.
We have a real museum here. Of battles, wars.
Write it down.
Last item. Hands.
He takes the man's right hand in his, inspects it, and moves on to the other hand. Let the lieutenant work alone.
Hands are clean. No sign of a recent struggle.
Were we expecting any?
I was. Maybe I'm just not seeing them. Honestly, this stench is making it hard for me to think at the moment.
Write it down.
Ooh. That's all for the external. Well done. What next?
Internal examination summary.
Central nervous system. I have nothing. Do you have anything on this man's central nervous system?
Of course, there is a moral to be drawn from it. A moral to this story.
Nope.
Musculoskeletal. Purge fluid is coming from the mouth. Not injury related. Eyes and tongue protuberant. Hyoid bone. Let's see.
With his eyes almost closed, the lieutenant puts his hand on the dead man's throat and begins to massage it, gently. A rotting smell erupts from the mouth. Purge fluid runs down his lips, black and viscous. You hear cracks as the lieutenant moves his sharp fingers inside the flesh, like the creaking of an old house at night.
Yeah, jack that fucker off!
The hyoid bone is fractured. The rest of the musculoskeletal system is intact. Unremarkable.
Write it down.
Respiratory system.
Back hunched as if in prayer, he begins to pry open the dead man's jaw. He stops to exert more force. Both hands are used.
Oral cavity shows no lesions. The victim has received dental implants, possibly after a combat wound. Mouth swollen. Hemorrhaging present in mucosa of the lips and mouth.
Look inside the dead man's mouth.
No scream, no sigh of relief rises from the darkness inside. It's humid there. Sickly sweet air, unlike anything living. You feel like you're about to throw up again, straight in that mouth of his.
Deeper
It's
inside.
hard. Once more, you taste stomach acid in the back of your throat. A contraction. Your throat pumps a little something from your stomach and into your mouth. You're forced to swallow, just to keep looking. Inside, you see darkness. Just a mess of meat and darkness.
There are ancient mysteries down there, Kobo. Ask me later.
Hemorrhaging present in mucus.
The lieutenant repeats impatiently. He lets go of the jaws. The mouth snaps shut before you.
Hepatobiliary. NA.
Why? Don't we have anything?
Are you a hepatobiliary expert?
He looks at the corpse's stomach with a mixture of tiredness and disgust. I don't think so.
Neither am I.
Alright.
Same for toxicology and serology. NA.
Both?
Unless you have untapped reservoirs of knowledge there?
Reservoirs? No, but do they take obscure trivia and odd tidbits?
NA?
Cardiovascular. The body exhibits heavy lividity. Blood has gathered in the hands, feet, and neck. Hypostasis is visually consistent with the hanging.
Write it down.
Gastrointestinal.
Breathes a sigh of approaching relief. This is the last field on the list. He looks around to the ground, the pool of feces there.
This will do.
Digested semi-solid food in stomach. Voila.
He touches the corpse's bloated lower abdomen briefly. Write it down. Omit the voila.
What's next on the list?
Description of injuries. Summary.
Let's see. We have bite marks, contusions on the head and chest, and a ligature mark encircling the neck. You'll need 3 fields. Leave a 4th one too.
Be thorough if you want maximum results.
What about the injuries we have inflicted?
Oh, so we inflicted them?
Okay, I have inflicted.
Okay, so there's an incision on the thorax from a chain cutter. I wouldn't mention it. Better not to muddy the waters.
I agree, the waters are muddy enough.
See? These pigs are fucking corrupt.
Why don't you fuck 'em if you love 'em so much?
Now, injuries.
Bite marks?
Head, chest, and scalp bite mark injuries. Predation by birds has caused damage to the body. Odontologist does not need to be consulted.
Write it down.
And your opinion, officer?
And chest, scalp, bite mark injuries, predation. Non-fatal, post-mortem.
Agreed. Next injury?
Contusions.
So, the scalp bleeds from a post-mortem head injury, a stone. The injury does not have the rim of an early inflammatory response. The perpetrator on the scene has confessed to causing it post-mortem.
At maximum velocity, fucko!
Has confessed to causing it at maximum velocity.
Coagulated blood sticks to his scalp and chest, where the countless stones have hit the dead man. Beneath, the description of injury. 2 boxes.
Non-fatal, post-mortem.
Right. Next?
What's the 4th injury field for?
Nothing. Just in case.
Ligature mark.
A dark red abraded ligature mark encircling the neck, with a gap on the nape measuring, let's say, 7 centimeters. The hyoid bone is fractured, the cervical column intact. I see hemorrhaging on the skin, above and below the ligature mark. Depth of the mark, 1 centimeter. No signs of clawing on the neck.
Write it down.
Below the note, 2 customary boxes wait to be ticked. The man's head jerks to the side. The ring around his neck is visible. Think for a moment. There's time. Don't rush.
Non-fatal, post-mortem. Lieutenant falls silent abruptly.
Why do you say that?
Serious, I don't think this was the injury that killed him.
Okay. Why don't you think it was fatal?
Why weren't his hands tied? Big man like this, I would tie his hands when marching him to the gallows.
Honestly, I'm not sure there weren't marks on his wrist. That part got blurry for me. The stench. But you're right, I was ready to call this. Now I think we should leave it empty, at least for the time being. Let's wrap this up. I pronounce this field autopsy over.
Well, first, how did it go?
It was an irregular field autopsy. We did not establish cause of death, which is supposed to be the goal of an autopsy. But, personally, I do not see this as a parameter for success.
What else?
We were thorough with the list of injuries too. We described them all in detail. What is there to say? Given the circumstances, it was a professional field autopsy.
What now?
I need a copy of that autopsy form. Then I will drive him to Faubourg.
Rip out a copy of the autopsy pages.
For processing.
He looks at the dead man one more time, and then at the slip of red paper in his hand, and then at the corpse again.
You tilt your head, also looking at the corpse. I'm sure we didn't get everything. There's always something.
Search the body one more time thoroughly.
Your arm reaches out, and your eyes close, as if by their own volition. It's dark all around. You feel cold, dead flesh through the latex glove. It's right under the palm of your hand.
What is this?
His face, his cheeks, his nose, his fat, swollen lips. Like a rubber spider, your gloved hand crawls on his features. Everything is silent, all around.
Crawl up his nostrils?
They are swollen shut. You need to really push to get in.
Let's try something
You're not
else.
far. It'll come to you. Keep crawling.
Put your fingers in his mouth.
The oral cavity is cold and moist. A ball-like tongue attaches itself to the base of the mouth, lolling around like a scallop. You're on the right track.
Open your eyes and look.
A vision of black and dark red death, pried open by your hands and studded with teeth. Looks like he's laughing. Death fumes rising from his throat. And there, in the back of his mouth, above the bell of the uvula, right in the soft palate, you see a hole, barely visible to the human eye. It is swollen shut, almost vanished. No larger than 0.4 centimeters in radius, the edges appear darkened. An abrasion collar. This is what we're after.
Abrasion collar.
Abrasion collar.
Lieutenant looks in. There's a pen in his hand. His notebook is open at the copy paper.
Kuno is silent.
Touch it with your finger. Gently.
A black trickle of liquid runs into his throat from the wound.
Put your finger in.
Your index fits right in there. A tight tunnel of flesh opens up. Tissue damage. Wide enough for 2 fingers. As you push both in, you reach through his mouth, right into his brainstem.
The fuck is happening?
Ah, shit, see?
Brainstem?
Yes, that's what this part is called.
Feel around first.
The basal ganglia feels clumpy. What entered here has torn apart his reptilian complex. This man will never sleep again. Never wake.
Push deeper.
Your yellow fingers slide into the remains of the limbic system. There is no resistance. It's gelatinous. The slug-like structures are damaged too. The tearing extends deep into both hemispheres.
There's a cavity, cut right between the hemispheres.
The lieutenant answers with the sound of his pen on paper.
Fucking cavity, see?
Kuno's voice says hush. Push deeper.
Your fingers are all the way in now, reaching toward the inside of his skull. The cavity goes further, but the entry wound isn't wide enough for the rest of your hand to follow.
Wriggle in.
Your fingers reach toward his skull. His cerebral cortex feels like jelly. Cold jelly. Strange fluid streams down your wrist as you push deeper until you feel it on the tip of your finger. Ice cold serrated metal. Its edges cut right through the latex and into your finger.
A solid object, right under the skull.
Can you get to it?
Inspect the skull first.
There's a tiny crack, a protrusion in the cranium, right in the back of his head. Your finger must be pointing straight at it, from the inside. The object that is in there stops just short of the skull, in the encephalus, knocking this tiny fracture into the cranium. This is the irregularity you felt before, the one that was too tiny to register consciously.
We have the makings of a very small exit wound here.
The lieutenant leans closer.
Forget about the fucking exit wound, Beano. The pig is wearing him like a fuck puppet.
Dish it out. As somebody who's played XCOM, I know 97% does not guarantee shit.
You pick the object between your index and middle finger. It feels sharp, like metal. With your face twisting from pain and concentration, all you need to do is just...
Slowly pull your fingers out.
The inside of the head feels cold and smooth, like a glove. Sweat dripping down your brow. Careful not to lose the prize between your fingers. With a plop, your hand emerges from the mouth. The garden glove is covered in blood right up to the wrist. Between your fingers, a small flower, a blossom made of lead.
Fucking beautiful!
A bullet.
Lieutenant puts a small bag marked evidence under it. Drop it in.
The bullet falls in the bag, leaving a smattering of blood on the plastic. He raises the bag under his eyes and says,
A non-caliber. Rifled. Some kind of brittle alloy. Fractured on impact.
Keep it, Lieutenant, as a gift.
No, you deserve it. We can log it later.
The lieutenant drops the bag in your hand. Feels light.
We need to add an item to the injury list. Injury number 4. Oval entry wound with an abrasion collar. Soft palate, back of mouth. High velocity. Temporary cavity in brain tissue. Small exit wound on the occiput. How does that sound?
Sounds about right.
Opinion, fatal injury.
Agreed.
And one last thing. We can now fill in injury number 3. Ligament mark. Opinion, non-fatal. Post-mortem. Treatment.
he's proposing the bullet was the real cause of death, and the hanging an attempt to conceal this fact.
The ligament mark, the fracture hyoid bone, it was all treatment.
Yes, and the belt around his neck, the hanging, even dragging him to the yard. All of it was done after this man was already dead.
Agreed.
I have had my doubts since you showed me the tracks. Why did they carry him over? Why not march him, I thought. There was no satisfying explanation. There have been other signs too. Small things. We were right not to assign hanging as cause of death, as the perpetrators expected we would. No such luck for them.
And that was on 42% chance.
There is, of course, the very real possibility he was both shot and hanged.
Why would anyone do this?
To hide something. The real killer? The real motivation? What really happened here?
Maybe the bullet holds more answers.
Yes, we should take a closer look at it. I am certain it has more to tell us.
This little thing could reveal much about the weapon that shot it.
Oof, I think I need to wash myself.
Oh, you really, really do. I am glad to hear you say that. Your room in the Whirling in Rise should come with a bathroom. Be sure to make use of it in the evening.
Who would do this?
That's for us to find out. But this, it will make finding them just a little easier.
What happens next?
We put him in a bag and carry him to the holding pen of my kinema. The body bag should contain the odor for the duration of the transport. I would drive him to processing, but it's too late to do that today. I'll do it first thing tomorrow. No problem. One more thing. This was really good work, Detective.
Let's drag him to the kinema. You're finished with the corpse.
All right.
He takes out a shiny black body bag and starts pulling the plastic over the dead man's face.
There go those beautiful enamel boots. You will never own the full set now. May they rest in processing.
Wait, what?
Oh well, in another lifetime.
Oh well.
I will need a little help carrying him. You take the hands, I'll take the legs.
Bag the corpse and drag it to the motor carriage. There is an achievement for getting all the pieces, but there's only one that's truly important. Okay, well, that took a lot longer than I would have liked. But, c'est la vie. And we are losing out on the books. But, hey, we got, not books, boots. But we did manage to get the bullet and discover the true cause of death. And taking care of the corpse. But anyways, with that, I'm going to end things off there for today. If you guys like what you see, please leave a like, subscribe for future content. Don't forget to hit that bell icon to get notifications for when I upload. And please, leave a comment down below this video. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks for watching.